So does it matter whether we do clamshells? There's strong opinions on both sides. And I actually am a fan of clamshells. And let me show you why. So when I stand with my feet forward, this is how turned in my knees and my femurs are. Here's the view from the back. You can see that you can't even see both sets of my ligaments, right? These lines that travel up and down the backs of your knees ideally point straight back behind you if your femurs are well organized. So internal rotation of the femurs is, the thigh bones, is a thing as a result of our sitting lifestyles, our sedentary lifestyles, our shoes, our flat ground that we walk on, are all kinds of things that contribute to how our hips do and do not work. And so theoretically, if your legs are going to be all nicely lined up, then wouldn't it be great if that just happened while we were moving? But if that's not where your legs are living, it's good to scale up. And that's where clamshells can be an interesting way to get started. So, if we're going to really make the most of the clamshell process, it's important to get a couple of things in place. So you want to line your pelvis up so that it's not going to move. And then try the version where you lift your heels and just explore, rather than just lifting your knee a whole bunch of times. Move slowly and find the work in the back of your hip. Find the sense of external rotation in this position. And then try this position. And you're still trying to get the work more into the back of your hip than into the front, into your quads, around your knee. Think of this as a spiraling of your leg bone in your hip socket to actually help change and stabilize the position of your leg in the hip socket, of the muscles that contribute to that position of the leg in the hip socket. And then slide your legs forward. They don't need to be at a 90-degree angle. You can have a little bit of space. You want to keep your butt untucked, right? If you bring your legs up so far that your pelvis curves around, you're not getting quite the same effectiveness. Same thing, not your pelvis tipping back, but your leg moving in your hip socket. Keep your heels pressing together. That can help to activate some muscles. And really find that sense of movement in the back of your hip. That might mean that you only lift 2 inches. Just a really tiny, tiny lift. However far you go on any given day, that's bringing the attention to the back of your hip. So you want to really get into those muscles that help to stabilize your leg. And then add the same thing with your leg extended, right? Which is a little bit closer to the way you would be if you were standing up. Of course, you would have both legs straight, but find that sense of reaching down as though you were meeting the floor, and then turn your leg so that the turn comes from the top of your leg in the hip socket. And this is part of what helps to change where you are living in terms of how your hip muscles function once you stand up, which becomes more challenging. So look at the difference on the side that I worked, and you can see both of those knee ligaments are pointing straight back. So for me, this is an excellent prep for functional movement. Walking, running, hiking, stair climbing, you name it. So you can see on the side where I worked, and I did a little bit more extra work that you couldn't see, but doing that little focused movement of my leg in my hip socket actually changed where my leg was sitting, so that when I stood up, there was a different orientation to my leg compared to the one that I hadn't done. So if you do the clamshells mindfully and intentfully, and then you go out and you move and you add that upright work that becomes part of your more functional life, it's a really good warm-up, and it's a really good way to do that movement with shorter levers, less load, right? It's just a little bit easier for your body to produce, and it's a great way to connect your brain to your deep hip muscles. And we want to be connected to all those deep hip muscles for long-term health and stability of your hip joints and your pelvic floor and your lower back and your knees and all that good stuff. So that's my little testimonial on behalf of Clamshells.